Have you ever noticed how priorities shift as you grow older? In youth, friendships seem like an essential part of life. We build social circles, nurture relationships, and often equate companionship with happiness. However, after 70, a profound transformation occurs, and it may surprise you to realize that having fewer friendships can actually lead to a happier, more peaceful life. Before we dive in, if you enjoy content that brings clarity and wisdom for your later years, be sure to subscribe to Buddhist Mindfulness and turn on the notification bell. Your support helps us continue to bring insightful content. Now let's explore the 6 key reasons why friendships become less important after 70, and why embracing independence can be the greatest gift you give yourself. Reason 1. You no longer need to prove yourself. In your younger years, friendships often revolve around social validation. You might have felt the need to fit in, impress colleagues, or maintain a certain image. Whether it was at work, in social circles, or even within family dynamics, there was often an underlying pressure to be seen as successful, competent, or socially desirable. But as you age, particularly when you reach your 70s, that pressure fades. You have lived through decades of challenges, triumphs, and personal growth. At this stage, you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. When you're younger, friendships can sometimes feel transactional. People form connections based on shared goals, mutual benefits, or social status. For instance, in a corporate environment, friendships often revolve around professional networking. In social settings, they may be influenced by trends, popularity, or external validation. However, as you grow older, the nature of relationships changes. The desire to impress others or gain approval loses its significance. You come to realize that true friendships are not built on validation, but on authenticity and shared experiences. When you no longer feel the need to prove yourself, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of seeking approval and maintaining relationships that do not bring genuine fulfillment. Take Harold, for example. For decades, he was deeply immersed in his career, working long hours and building connections with colleagues and business associates. He attended networking events, social gatherings, and professional meetups, always ensuring he maintained the right image. He believed these relationships were strong and meaningful. However, when Harold retired, he noticed something interesting. Most of those connections faded almost instantly. The colleagues he once considered close friends stopped reaching out. The social invitations dwindled. Initially, he tried to maintain contact, reaching out to former colleagues, arranging meetups, and keeping up with professional circles. But after some time, he had a profound realization. These friendships were circumstantial. They had existed primarily within the structure of his career. Without the common goal of work, there was little left to sustain them. At first, Harold felt a sense of loss. He questioned whether his friendships had ever been real. But as time passed, he started to see this as a blessing. He no longer felt the need to keep up appearances or invest energy into relationships that were based on superficial validation. Instead, he focused on nurturing the connections that truly mattered: his family, his lifelong friends, and, most importantly, his relationship with himself. Aging brings a level of self-assurance that is difficult to attain in youth. By the time you reach your 70s, you have experienced enough in life to understand your own worth. You recognize that external approval is fleeting and the most important validation comes from within. This self-acceptance allows you to let go of superficial relationships. When you no longer need to prove yourself, you naturally gravitate toward people who accept you as you are. You stop wasting energy on maintaining friendships that are based on appearances, status, or convenience. Instead, you invest in relationships that bring true joy and connection. Focus on genuine connections. The friendships you choose to maintain are those that are built on mutual respect, shared experiences, and genuine care. These are the friendships that remain strong, even when life circumstances change. Live without fear of judgment. Many people spend their younger years worried about what others think. But as you age, you realize that people's opinions have little impact on your happiness. You become more comfortable in your own skin, embracing your flaws, quirks, and individuality without hesitation. Rediscover your own passions. Without the need to impress or conform, you can focus on what truly brings you joy. Whether it's art, music, travel, or simple moments of solitude, you reclaim your time and energy for the things that matter to you. Harold's story is not unique. Many people in their later years experience the same realization. There is a profound sense of freedom in no longer needing to seek validation. When you stop proving yourself to others, you reclaim your own energy. The pressure to meet societal expectations fades, and you can finally live life on your own terms. This doesn't mean that friendships or social connections lose their importance. On the contrary, it means that the relationships you choose to maintain are far more meaningful. You cultivate bonds that are rooted in authenticity rather than obligation. You surround yourself with people who appreciate you for who you are rather than what you can offer. At the end of the day, the most important relationship you have is with yourself. When you reach your 70s, you have the wisdom to see that external validation was never the key to happiness. What truly matters is inner peace, self-acceptance, and the ability to embrace life with an open heart. Harold, like many others, found that once he stopped trying to hold on to relationships that were no longer meaningful, he felt lighter. He realized that his worth was never defined by how many friends he had or how impressive his social life appeared. Instead, it was defined by the love he gave, the kindness he shared, and the peace he cultivated within himself. Aging is not about losing relevance. It is about gaining clarity. When you no longer need to prove yourself, you experience a sense of liberation. The friendships that remain are the ones that truly matter. You embrace life with a sense of freedom, knowing that you have nothing to prove and everything to enjoy. So, if you ever feel the pressure to impress, to hold on to connections that no longer serve you, or to seek approval from others, remember this. You have already proven yourself simply by living, growing, and becoming the person you are today. And that is more than enough. Reason 2. Peace becomes more valuable than socializing. When you were younger, social gatherings, conversations, and friendships might have been an integral part of your daily life. Parties, coffee meetups, phone calls, and weekend outings felt like necessary activities, providing joy, connection, and a sense of belonging. However, as time passes, priorities shift. The desire for constant social interaction gradually gives way to a deep appreciation for peace and solitude. In youth and middle age, the thrill of friendships and the fear of missing out often drive people to seek social connections actively. Being surrounded by others offers excitement, laughter, and a sense of security. But as people age, they begin to recognize the value of moments spent in silence. They start to appreciate the beauty of simplicity and the profound impact of uninterrupted time with their own thoughts. This shift isn't about loneliness or isolation. Rather, it's about choosing quality over quantity. Conversations that once seemed engaging may now feel repetitive. Friendships that once brought joy might start to feel burdensome, especially when they are filled with unnecessary drama or negativity. As a result, people often find themselves yearning for moments of solitude, where they can recharge, reflect, and simply exist without the demands of social obligations. Margaret, at 74, used to have an active social life. She regularly attended luncheons, answered every phone call, and made an effort to keep up with all her acquaintances. In her younger years, she thrived on companionship and was known as the glue that held her friend group together. However, as the years went by, she started noticing a change in herself. Many of her interactions no longer brought the same joy they once did. Some friends only called to complain about their problems, rarely asking about her well-being. Others engaged in repetitive conversations about trivial matters that no longer interested her. The invitations to social events became more of a burden than a pleasure, as she felt drained rather than fulfilled after attending them. She realized that much of her social life was driven by obligation rather than genuine desire. One day, Margaret decided to embrace solitude. She stopped forcing herself to attend every social gathering and let go of friendships that no longer added value to her life. Instead of filling her time with constant interactions, she began to rediscover simple joys. She started reading more, meditating, and enjoying long walks in nature. She found peace in sipping her morning tea while watching the sunrise. For the first time in decades, she felt truly at ease. She was no longer weighed down by social expectations and, instead, had the freedom to embrace the quiet moments that nourished her soul. One of the biggest misconceptions about growing older is that reduced social interaction equates to loneliness. However, there is a significant difference between being alone and being lonely. Loneliness is the feeling of being disconnected and yearning for companionship. Solitude, on the other hand, is the deliberate choice to be alone for the sake of inner peace and self reflection. When you prioritize peace over socializing, it doesn't mean you are cutting off meaningful relationships. Instead, it means you are more selective about who you spend your time with and how you engage with others. The goal is not to withdraw from life, but to cultivate an environment that allows for emotional and mental well being. The benefits of embracing peace over constant socializing. Emotional well being. By removing unnecessary social obligations, you free yourself from draining interactions and create space for emotional healing and balance. Self discovery. Quiet moments allow for deeper self reflection, helping you gain a better understanding of yourself and what truly brings you joy. Better health. Stress and anxiety are often linked to excessive social commitments. Prioritizing peace can lead to lower blood pressure, improved sleep, and overall better health. Stronger relationships. When you engage in fewer but more meaningful interactions, your relationships become more authentic and fulfilling. Greater appreciation for life's simple pleasures. Instead of constantly seeking external stimulation, you begin to find beauty in small, everyday moments. How to transition from social overload to peaceful living. Assess your social circle. Identify which relationships bring joy and which ones feel like obligations. Let go of toxic or draining connections. Learn to say no. Set healthy boundaries by declining invitations or conversations that don't align with your well being. Create a peaceful routine. Incorporate activities that bring you peace, such as reading, gardening, meditating, or listening to music. Embrace meaningful conversations. Instead of engaging in surface level talk, focus on deeper, more enriching discussions with a select few. Enjoy the present moment. Learn to appreciate your own company and the serenity that comes with solitude. As you age, you come to realize that true peace comes when you let go of unnecessary social obligations and embrace the quiet moments that nourish your soul. It's not about shutting the world out, but about choosing where to invest your energy. When you prioritize inner peace, life becomes more fulfilling, meaningful, and joyful. Margaret's journey is a reminder that it's okay to step back from constant social interaction. There is profound wisdom in understanding that peace is not something to be chased, but something to be cultivated within. The beauty of growing older is having the freedom to make choices that honor your well-being. And sometimes the best choice you can make is to simply sit in silence and savor the tranquility of your own presence. Reason 3, fewer friendships mean fewer disappointments. One of the hardest lessons in life is realizing that not everyone you call a friend is truly there for you. As we go through different phases of life, friendships evolve, expectations shift, and people change. While friendships can be sources of joy, comfort, and companionship, they can also bring disappointment, misunderstandings, and even heartache. As we age, we begin to see relationships more clearly. We recognize that maintaining friendships requires effort from both sides, and when that effort is unbalanced, disappointment often follows. Rather than investing time and emotional energy into relationships that do not reciprocate our care and attention, many older adults find that keeping a smaller, more genuine circle of friends leads to greater peace of mind. William, a 78-year-old retired teacher, spent much of his life surrounded by friends. He had always been the one to organize gatherings, check in on people, and make sure everyone stayed connected. For years, he assumed that his friends valued him as much as he valued them. However, as he grew older, he began to notice a pattern. He was the one putting in most of the effort. At first, he made excuses for them. People are busy, he told himself. They have their own lives to manage. But deep down, he wondered, if I stop reaching out, will they ever call me? One day, he decided to conduct a little experiment. He stopped making the first move. Days turned into weeks, then months, and only a handful of people checked in on him. Many friendships that he once thought were lifelong simply faded away. At first, this was painful. It felt like rejection. But as time passed, he realized something liberating. He wasn't losing true friends. He was letting go of one-sided relationships. This experience helped William see the value of genuine friendships, relationships where care and effort were mutual. He learned that by focusing on the people who truly cared for him, rather than trying to maintain connections with those who didn't, he could live a more peaceful and fulfilling life. One-sided friendships can be emotionally exhausting. When one person is always the giver, always initiating conversations, always making plans, always offering support, while the other simply takes, resentment can build. It's natural to expect some level of reciprocity in relationships, and when that is missing, feelings of frustration and sadness arise. For older adults, this emotional burden can be particularly heavy. Loneliness is already a concern for many as they age, and feeling unappreciated or taken for granted only exacerbates that loneliness. Instead of feeling connected, one-sided friendships can make a person feel even more isolated. By reducing the number of superficial or unbalanced friendships, older adults can protect their emotional well-being. It's not about cutting people off out of spite. It's about recognizing which relationships bring joy and which bring stress. Quality over quantity, the key to fulfilling relationships. In our younger years, having a large circle of friends often feels important. There's a certain social validation that comes with being surrounded by many people, but as we grow older, we start to value quality over quantity. A few deep, meaningful friendships are far more rewarding than many shallow ones. Having fewer friendships doesn't mean becoming antisocial or shutting people out. It means being intentional about who we invest time and energy into. A close friend who listens, supports, and truly cares is far more valuable than 10 acquaintances who only appear when it's convenient for them. Genuine friendships bring comfort, companionship, and understanding. They involve mutual respect, shared values, and emotional support. They provide a safe space to share feelings, reflect on life, and find joy in meaningful conversations. When we focus on nurturing these kinds of relationships, we eliminate much of the disappointment that comes from superficial friendships. Letting go of unbalanced friendships can feel uncomfortable at first. It's natural to mourn relationships that once felt important. But over time, many people find that it brings a sense of peace. Instead of constantly wondering why a friend isn't reaching out or feeling hurt when they don't respond, there's an acceptance that not every relationship is meant to last forever. This doesn't mean harboring resentment or holding grudges. It simply means understanding that some people are meant to be in our lives for only a season. Others, however, will stay by our side through all of life's changes. By focusing on those who truly matter, we create space for deeper, more fulfilling connections. As we age, we gain a clearer perspective on what truly matters in relationships. We learn that it's better to have a few true friends than a large group of acquaintances who don't truly care. By letting go of one-sided friendships, we free ourselves from unnecessary disappointment and open our hearts to the friendships that bring us real joy and fulfillment. William's journey serves as a reminder that choosing quality over quantity in relationships is a path to inner peace. When we invest in the people who genuinely care for us, we experience deeper connections, greater emotional security, and a more fulfilling social life. In the end, fewer friendships don't mean loneliness. They mean fewer disappointments and more meaningful relationships. Reason 4. Your time becomes more precious. As you enter your 70s and beyond, you begin to see time differently. No longer does it feel like an endless resource. Instead, it becomes something to be cherished, protected, and used wisely. Every moment starts to feel like a gift, and the question arises more frequently: is this truly adding to my happiness? This shift in perspective leads to a more intentional way of living, one that prioritizes joy, peace, and meaningful connections over obligations and distractions. Richard, a retired architect in his early 80s, once had an active social life filled with dinners, community meetings, and family gatherings. While he initially enjoyed these interactions, he eventually noticed a pattern. Some engagements left him feeling drained rather than fulfilled. He realized that he had been saying yes out of habit, because it was expected, because he didn't want to disappoint others, or because he thought he should be social. But deep down, many of these commitments no longer brought him joy. One evening, after returning home from yet another event that left him feeling exhausted, Richard made a bold decision. He would start evaluating every invitation through a new lens. Before agreeing to anything, he asked himself one simple question: will this bring me joy and fulfillment? If the answer was no, he politely declined. At first, he worried about disappointing others, but something surprising happened. His true friends understood and respected his choices. Over time, he found himself more energized, content, and deeply at peace. The social gatherings he did attend felt more meaningful, and he cherished them more. By reclaiming his time, Richard gained a new sense of control over his happiness. This shift is common among older adults. When we are younger, it's easy to fill our schedules with work, social commitments, and endless obligations. But as we age, we realize that time is the most valuable currency we have. Instead of focusing on what others expect from us, we begin focusing on what truly brings us happiness. This doesn't mean shutting people out, it simply means making more conscious choices. Whether it's deciding to spend time with loved ones who uplift us, pursuing hobbies that bring joy, or simply enjoying the peace of solitude, every decision becomes more intentional. If you find yourself feeling overwhelmed or stretched thin, here are some practical ways to reclaim your time and use it in a way that enhances your happiness. Assess your commitments. Take an honest look at how you spend your time. Are there activities or obligations that no longer bring you joy? If so, consider letting them go. It can be difficult to decline invitations or requests, but saying no is an act of self-care. Politely declining things that do not serve you allows you to say yes to what truly matters. Prioritize meaningful connections. Surround yourself with people who bring positivity, love, and laughter into your life. Let go of relationships that feel draining or one-sided. Engage in activities that enrich your soul. Whether it's reading, painting, gardening, or simply taking quiet walks in nature, dedicate time to activities that nourish your spirit. Create space for reflection and rest. Time alone can be just as valuable as time with others. Allow yourself moments of solitude to reflect, recharge, and appreciate life's simple pleasures. One of the greatest lessons that comes with aging is learning to be fully present. Rather than rushing through life or worrying about the future, older adults often develop a deep appreciation for the here and now. They savor their morning coffee, enjoy quiet moments with a good book, and listen intently when a loved one speaks. By prioritizing presence over busyness, life becomes richer and more fulfilling. As Richard discovered, prioritizing his happiness allowed him to live more fully. He didn't withdraw from life. Rather, he made room for the things that truly mattered. By valuing your time and using it wisely, you not only enhance your own well-being, but also create deeper and more meaningful experiences with those around you. At the end of the day, time is one of the few things we can never get back. So why not spend it in ways that truly bring joy, peace, and fulfillment? Embracing this mindset can lead to a life that is not just long, but deeply satisfying and well-lived. Reason 5. True companionship comes from within. A common misconception about aging is that you need a large circle of friends to be happy. While social connections are important, the truth is that the most fulfilling companionship you will ever experience is the one you build with yourself. As people grow older, their social circles naturally shrink. Friends move away, relationships evolve, and life circumstances change. Many people fear loneliness in old age, believing that without constant social engagement, they will feel isolated and unhappy. However, solitude is not the same as loneliness. Learning to enjoy your own company can be one of the most rewarding aspects of life. Eleanor, 76, was always the type of person who prioritized friendships. She made an effort to stay connected, hosting gatherings, calling friends regularly, and making sure to attend every social event she was invited to. She believed that staying socially active was the key to happiness, as society often emphasized the importance of having a strong support system. However, despite her full social calendar, Eleanor often found herself feeling exhausted rather than fulfilled. Conversations felt repetitive, and at times she felt as though she was forcing interactions just to avoid being alone. There was an underlying sense of emptiness she couldn't quite explain. One day, after a particularly draining luncheon, Eleanor decided to take a break. She started spending more time alone, not out of loneliness, but out of curiosity. She took long walks in the park, enjoying the beauty of nature without feeling the need to fill the silence with conversation. She picked up books she had always meant to read but never had time for. She started journaling, reflecting on her life experiences and emotions without judgment. To her surprise, Eleanor began to feel more at peace. For the first time in years, she wasn't relying on external interactions to bring her joy. She realized that the best company she could ever have was herself. The deep sense of contentment she found in solitude was something no social gathering had ever given her. Many people associate solitude with sadness, but in reality, it can be a powerful source of renewal. Being alone allows you to reconnect with your inner self, understand your true desires, and cultivate self-awareness. Instead of seeking validation or fulfillment from others, you learn to appreciate your own thoughts, interests, and emotions. When you spend time alone, you also become more selective about the relationships you maintain. You no longer feel the need to engage in meaningless social interactions just to avoid being alone. Instead, you prioritize quality over quantity, surrounding yourself with people who genuinely enrich your life rather than those who simply fill a void. Ways to cultivate true companionship within one. Embrace silence. In today's world, silence is often avoided. People turn to television, social media, or phone calls to fill every quiet moment. But embracing silence can be profoundly healing. Try sitting in stillness for a few minutes each day. Let your thoughts flow naturally and observe them without judgment. 2. Engage in activities that bring you joy. When you develop hobbies and interests that make you happy, you realize that you don't need others to validate your experiences, whether it's painting, gardening, playing an instrument, or simply watching the sunset. These small moments of joy can be deeply fulfilling. 3. Practice self-reflection. Journaling or meditating can help you understand yourself on a deeper level. When you write down your thoughts and feelings, you gain clarity and develop a stronger connection with your inner self. 4. Spending time outdoors can be a meditative experience. Walking in a park, sitting by a lake, or even just listening to birds chirping can create a sense of peace and connectedness. 5. Cultivate gratitude. Instead of focusing on what you lack, appreciate what you already have. Gratitude shifts your perspective and helps you recognize the beauty in your own company. 6. Overcoming the fear of being alone. For many, the idea of solitude can be intimidating, especially if they have spent most of their lives surrounded by family, colleagues, or friends. However, being alone doesn't mean being lonely. Loneliness comes from feeling disconnected from oneself and others, whereas solitude is a conscious choice to spend time with oneself in a meaningful way. If you struggle with the idea of spending time alone, start small. Set aside just a few minutes each day for quiet reflection. Gradually, you'll begin to appreciate the freedom that comes with self-reliance. Eleanor's journey teaches us that true companionship starts from within. While friendships and social connections are valuable, they are not the sole source of happiness. When you cultivate a strong relationship with yourself, you experience a deep sense of peace that no amount of social interaction can replace. Aging is not about accumulating more people around you, it's about deepening your understanding of who you are. The more comfortable you become with your own presence, the less you depend on external factors for fulfillment. In the end, the relationship you have with yourself is the one that lasts a lifetime. Learn to cherish it, and you'll never feel alone. Reason 6. Letting go opens the door to a more fulfilling life. Letting go doesn't mean isolating yourself. It means creating space for what truly brings you joy. Too often, people hold on to relationships, habits, or commitments that no longer serve them, simply because of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of change, or fear of losing a sense of identity. But what if releasing these things actually allowed you to step into a more authentic and meaningful life? James, in his late 70s, always believed that staying socially active was the key to a good life. He had been part of numerous social clubs, attended regular gatherings, and maintained a wide network of acquaintances. For decades, he believed that surrounding himself with people would bring him happiness and keep loneliness at bay. Yet over time, he began to notice something unsettling. The conversations felt repetitive. The gatherings started to feel more like obligations than moments of joy. He found himself drained rather than uplifted. Instead of feeling connected, he felt increasingly disconnected, as if he was just going through the motions. Then came a pivotal moment. He asked himself, what if I stopped forcing these connections? At first, the idea seemed radical, even frightening. Wouldn't pulling away mean a life of isolation? Wouldn't he be turning his back on relationships he had invested in for years? But deep inside, he knew the truth. These friendships no longer added value to his life. They had served their purpose, and it was time to let them go. So James made a choice. He gradually withdrew from the social activities that no longer brought him joy. Instead, he directed his energy toward what truly mattered. He rediscovered his love for nature, spending mornings walking through quiet trails, listening to birdsong, and feeling the gentle warmth of the sun on his skin. He turned to mindfulness practices, learning to sit with his thoughts, embracing stillness, and deepening his connection with himself. He started journaling, reflecting on his past, and embracing the wisdom he had gained over the years. The result, a sense of peace and fulfillment greater than he had ever imagined. He no longer felt the need to keep up appearances or maintain friendships out of obligation. Instead, he found joy in solitude, purpose in self-reflection, and a deep appreciation for the present moment. Most importantly, he realized that true companionship came not from being surrounded by people, but from feeling at peace with himself. James's story is not unique. Many people, especially as they grow older, hold on to relationships, habits, and routines that no longer serve them, often out of fear of the unknown. But letting go is not about rejection, it's about realignment. It's about recognizing that change is a natural part of life, and that by releasing what no longer fits, we make room for what truly matters. Here are a few key lessons we can take from James's journey. Not all friendships are meant to last forever. Some friendships serve us for a season. They provide joy, lessons, or companionship during certain phases of life. But clinging to relationships that have run their course can lead to stagnation rather than growth. It's okay to acknowledge when a friendship no longer enriches your life and to move forward without guilt. Solitude is not the same as loneliness. Many fear that letting go of certain social ties will leave them feeling isolated. But solitude can be incredibly enriching. It provides the opportunity for self-discovery, reflection, and deeper engagement with activities that bring true joy. When we stop fearing solitude, we start embracing the richness it offers. Letting go creates space for new experiences. When we hold on to things that no longer serve us, we limit our ability to welcome new opportunities. Whether it's friendships, commitments, or even outdated beliefs, releasing them opens doors to new experiences, new relationships, and a renewed sense of purpose. Your happiness should not be dependent on others. It's easy to believe that external factors, people, social validation, or constant activity are necessary for happiness. But true contentment comes from within. Learning to enjoy your own company, pursuing passions that fulfill you, and embracing self-acceptance can lead to deeper happiness than any external validation ever could. If you find yourself resonating with James's story and wondering how to apply this to your own life, consider the following steps. Evaluate your relationships. Ask yourself which friendships bring you joy and which ones feel like obligations. Recognize that it's okay to distance yourself from relationships that no longer align with your well-being. Embrace mindfulness. Practicing mindfulness can help you become more aware of what truly makes you happy. Spend time in quiet reflection, meditation, or journaling to gain clarity on what you want from life. Pursue activities that fulfill you. What hobbies, interests, or passions have you neglected? Redirecting your energy toward meaningful activities can bring new joy and purpose. Let go of guilt. Releasing old relationships or routines can come with guilt. Remind yourself that growth requires change and that prioritizing your well-being is not selfish, it's necessary. Trust the process. Letting go is a journey, not an instant transformation. Be patient with yourself as you navigate this change and trust that what awaits you on the other side is a life of greater peace and fulfillment. Letting go is not about cutting ties or rejecting your past. It's about stepping into a more authentic and fulfilling life. It's about recognizing that not everything is meant to last forever, and that's okay. When we release what no longer serves us, we create space for new joys, new experiences, and a deeper sense of inner peace. Just like James, we can find a life that is not only more peaceful, but also more meaningful, one that is shaped by what truly brings us happiness rather than what we feel obligated to hold on to. At the core of this discussion is one powerful truth. You are not defined by the number of friends you have, but by the quality of life you choose to live. Society often teaches us that being social, maintaining a large circle of friends, and keeping up with social obligations are signs of a well lived life. But as we grow older, we come to realize that true fulfillment doesn't come from numbers. It comes from authenticity, peace, and personal freedom. So ask yourself, are your friendships bringing you joy or stress? Are you maintaining relationships out of obligation or genuine connection? Is your time being spent in ways that truly fulfill you? This stage of life is not about loneliness. It's about liberation. It's about choosing peace over pretense, depth over superficiality, and meaning over mere obligation. When you remove the weight of unnecessary social expectations, you make space for self-discovery, mindfulness, and deep inner contentment. If this message resonates with you, share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's create a space of wisdom and encouragement. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay connected with more insights from Buddhist mindfulness. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.